coming to a sunrise. So what my eyes, that moment I visualize is coming. If you could see me now, see I'm gonna break through the life I knew. Been waiting, a dream come true. Still aiming. If you could see me now, if you could see me now.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are here with something a little new, maybe a little old if you've been here for a while. But it's been quite a while since I've done this, and I know I've got a lot of new subscribers. But I sometimes do movie reviews when a movie comes out that I'm really interested in. And obviously yesterday, Godzilla vs. Kong came out, and boy, am I excited to cover that. So for anybody who hasn't seen my movie reviews before, the way we kind of do it is, at first, I will give you spoiler-free first few minutes, talk about a few things. Then we will get deep into spoilers, talk about what actually happened in the movie. And then at the end, I will give you my final thoughts and score the movie on a scale of 1 to 10. So I will have timestamps down below if you guys want to skip ahead or if you guys want to avoid spoilers. But let's get into it. So, spoiler-free. How did I feel about the movie? First off, this is some of the best CGI I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, they just straight flexed at every chance they got. The music was good. Obviously, we know there was going to be a lot of fight scenes, a lot of destruction, and the amount of detail on everything was so good. One problem a lot of people had with the previous Godzilla movies, King of the Monsters and the one before it, were that they focus too much on the people. While they are a few groups of people that are kind of pivotal to the story, they're more used as plot devices than actually taking attention away from the monsters. They actually super humanize the monsters a lot, especially Kong. Like, they get so detailed on his facial expressions. He responds to certain things. Even Godzilla. Like, there's a point where Godzilla, like, smiles. And it's just, it was insane the amount of detail they put in. The plot was pretty obvious. Even just from the trailers, you could pretty much tell what was going to happen. So that was one little bit of a letdown, because they didn't really have anything that surprised us. They kind of showed a little too much. The environments, the different places they went, because they had to go to a bunch of different places due to the story of the movie, all great. All looked absolutely fantastic. Like I said, visually this movie was just straight up eye candy. There's actually a scene, this is not a spoiler, where Kong's eating a bunch of fish, and the fish falling out of his hand, the blood on his teeth and the pieces, and he's smiling while he's eating. And it's just, I don't know how the hell they did that. I've never seen CGI that advanced. Like, I know I keep gushing about the CGI, but it was so pretty. The cinematography, the way they filmed it, the camera work, so solid. There were points where it would zoom in on the action, zoom out so you can see the scale of what was going on. Do I have anything I really didn't like? I honestly went back and watched the movie a second time just to make sure I was prepared to do the review, because it was just, like, I was sucked in the beginning, but I wanted to, like, try and pay attention to more detail. There was some things that didn't get explained, and a couple plot holes. And I think that was the biggest kind of disconnect for me, because there were some things that left me with questions, and I'll get into that when we get into spoiler talk. But I do think it was a great movie, and if you are a fan of the MonsterVerse, you should definitely check it out. Even if you're not, just if you're a fan of action movies, check it out. It was really, really fun and a really, really good movie. But this is where we're gonna cut it now. I know it was kind of short, but I really want to jump into spoilers, and I really want to talk about what happened in this movie. So, if you guys haven't seen the movie yet, stop here, come back later, come to hear my thoughts on the rest of the movie, or jump ahead and hear what I scored the movie. But, if you're not staying for spoilers, I will catch you guys on the next video. Now, spoiler talk. Mechagodzilla, it was a monster. No, let's start from the beginning. So, just the opening shots of the movie, you know, King Kong just getting up. It was funny because to me he was like an old man, you know, scratching his butt, taking a shower, just trying to chill. And then we got to meet Gia, the little girl the only person he really talks to. And we immediately, makes a spear out of a tree and just destroy his habitat. That was our first question. That we were like, what the hell is he in? We thought he was just chilling on Skull Island. He is still on Skull Island, but he is in like a dome, and we don't know why. On the outside is a massive storm. We meet Dr. Irene Andrews. I'm basically going to refer to her and her team as Team Kong, because they stick with Kong throughout the entire movie and basically serve as giving us explanation on what's going on. So this dome is to protect Kong, to keep him on Skull Island, because if he leaves Skull Island, Godzilla's going to come for him. They're both Alpha Titans. We all know there can't be two Alpha Titans. So she also doesn't think that he can beat Godzilla, which is, we all know is kind of true. I was Team Kong, but if you're watching this and you already saw the end of the movie, obviously Godzilla won. I thought they were going to give it to Kong, because they played him out to like the hero and the underdog the entire time. But I liked the way they did the opening credits, because we get a montage of all the Titan fights. Kong fighting the skull crawlers, all the different Titans that Godzilla fought, and it basically works us into the movie. And then we head to Apex Cybernetics. We get to meet, his voice, but we get to meet Bernie first, kind of doing a Titan podcast, trying to get the truth out there from inside of Apex. And he works for Apex, and he starts, trying to bullshit his way through some shit. Gets to a computer, gets the guy to leave, finds out about a shipping manifest from where they are to their Hong Kong location, even though import-export is not what that facility is for. So he gets really, really interested. He gets really, really interested. And then Godzilla attacks. And nobody knows why Godzilla is attacking this specific facility. He ends up using Godzilla's attack as a means to search the facility, and he finds this like glowing red orb. Turns out that's actually an eyeball. But it ends up, he almost gets killed by Godzilla. Godzilla takes out two security guards and does kind of save him. But he ends up putting everything on his podcast. And we jump over to Madison. Madison was the daughter of the dude from Monarch in the last movie. She is now, I will call her and her little crew, Team Godzilla, because she basically tries to figure out why Godzilla is attacking. Godzilla's never attacked humans or anyone unprovoked for any reason whatsoever. And it doesn't make sense that he would not only attack humans where he's been completely peaceful for 3 years, but attack this specific spot and then just leave. She's listening to Bernie's podcast and she agrees with him, and she ends up deciding that she is going to go and find him. Now we jump to another member of what's going to be part of Team Kong. This is Nathan Newland. He is in his office, chilling by himself, and he gets confronted by two men. One man is Walt Simmons, and the other is Ren Serizawa. Now, this is actually hilariously interesting, because this has to do with the Hollow Earth theory, which I actually found out about the theory the day before I saw the movie. So in the Hollow Earth theory, it's actually believed that the middle of the Earth, where the core is supposed to be, is actually a body of water. It's actually, completely hollow. We actually don't have drills that can go deep enough yet, so we don't really know. But in this universe, it is believed that in the center of the Earth is an entire ecosystem, and that is where all Titans come from. Nathan has been studying it his entire life. He's published books on it, and he had a brother who tried to actually get there, but when they get there, there's like a gravitational vortex where gravity shifts, and the entire planet's gravity shifting all at once crushed their ship and killed them all. Well, Walt uses the effect that Godzilla, has now attacked humanity, as they need to create a defense for Godzilla. They show Nathan magnetic scans of the planet that they took from new satellites, and they can actually you can actually see Hollow Earth, and that there is a power source in Hollow Earth that is pretty much identical to the kind of energy that Godzilla creates, and they believe that's the energy that allows the entire ecosystem of Hollow Earth to exist. So they want to go there, get a sample of this, and use it to create a weapon that can match Godzilla. They explain to him that they have a new kind of vehicle that can survive the gravity nexus, or whatever you want to call it, called the Hollow Earth Aerial Vehicle, or the HEAV. And they want him to go there, you know, which entices him because that's like his dream, and to see if he can find this energy source. He decides he's going to contact an old friend, which actually ends up being the doctor we met at the beginning, Irene, and he believes that in the genetic memory theory, for anybody who's ever played Assassin's Creed, that it's embedded in the Titan's DNA to want to go back to the place of their birth. So he wants to use Kong to basically go back and have him lead them to Hollow Earth. So the next shot we see is we're back at Kong's habitat, and aircraft shows up. We actually see that Kong has been basically blowing holes into his habitat because he wants out, but they're trying to protect him. Nathan talks to Irene, explains the situation. After a little bit of convincing, they decide, okay, we'll do it, but if we're going to take Kong off the island, you have to do what I say 100% of the time. So they end up sedating him, and they basically chain him to a boat, and they're going to the Antarctic. In Antarctica, there is a pathway leading into Hollow Earth. Now, while on the boat, they're looking at Kong. A little bit of back and forth about Kong, but then we meet another new character named Mia Simmons. She is the daughter of Walt, the guy who confronted Nathan. Sorry, sped by it. He's actually the head of Apex. So she is working for the head of Apex. She's the one there to lend them the vehicles to get into the Hollow Earth and to basically babysit. She actually makes a joke. Well, it's not really a joke, but she basically says that the vehicles are the most advanced things they've ever used, and that their engines have enough charge to light Vegas for a week. Now, that actually, which was supposed to be a joke, actually becomes important kind of later. We'll get there. Now, that night, it's pouring out, and Gia, little girl, wants to go and talk to Kong. She loves Kong, Kong loves her. She goes out, and Kong's over there struggling against his chains. He wants out, but she manages to calm him down. She does an ET phone home, puts her finger out, he puts his finger out, and she communicates with him. Turns out he can sign, but didn't want to tell anybody because he was scared. Well, Irene comes out, asks Gia what she's doing. Gia explains that he wants to go home, that he's scared, he's angry. Irene tries to tell him that he just doesn't understand, but he does, and then he signs that he wants to go home, and everybody freaks out because they didn't know he could sign. Now we jump back over to Madison, and she meets up with her friend Josh. They have a van, and they're basically going to find Bernie. So Bernie is super paranoid, and he believes in organic tracking. So he basically bathes in bleach to stop organic tracking. They use that to find him. They actually pay a shop clerk because he buys all his bleach there, and they find out his address. Once he finds out who she is, and that her dad's the head of Monarch, he ends up talking to them. We jump back over again. It's a lot of jumping back and forth between the teams. So now we jump back over to Team Kong, and Irene is kind of telling Nathan about the one plot hole that I had. So Skull Island basically got hit with a storm that never stopped. And this storm was so intense that it wiped out the people that lived on Skull Island. Remember, we saw them in Kong Skull Island, and Gia was the only one left. And Kong had saved her from the storm and basically kind of made a promise to protect her, and so did Irene. And we don't know where the storm came from or why it's lasting so long. And I thought that was kind of a big plot hole for me. While Nathan and Irene are talking, Gia, being that she's deaf, can feel the vibrations in the water, and she realizes something's wrong, and she goes running out of her room to find Irene. And as soon as she's about to get to Irene, alarm start going off. Basically, Godzilla has found them. They go up to the bridge, and they basically explain that Irene had given them a set course of waters to avoid because they were basically Godzilla's main territories. But Godzilla didn't give a shit. He straight left his territory to come find Kong. Immediately, she's like, you need to cut Kong loose because he's a sitting duck right now. If Godzilla comes, he's in trouble. Nathan doesn't want to release him because he believes if they lose Kong, the mission's over. But what happens is, we get to round, basically, I called it round one because they fight a couple times throughout this movie. You know, the military starts trying to shoot at Godzilla. He don't give a shit. He like shrugs it off and starts just destroying shit. But he flips the boat with Kong on it, and Kong's stuck there. Nathan manages to release his bindings, and not only is he able to get some serious licks in on Godzilla, punches, grabs his claws, just straight headbutts him. He flips the ship back over, basically saving the entire crew, and gets on top of it. Now, this fight scene was very, very cool. A lot of back and forth between the two of them, but Godzilla definitely had the advantage with them being over water. Every time he climbed out, Kong would hit him, but once he got Kong in the water, it was basically a wrap. The scene I thought was really cool was where Godzilla's swimming around their little fleet, and Kong literally jumps over two ships to basically greet Godzilla on the other side, picks up a plane and throws it at him like it's a goddamn exploding shuriken. It was mad cool. But then once Kong fell into the water, Godzilla wrapped him up with his tail and started dragging him down. They had to release death charges, big ass underwater bombs, just to get him to let go of Kong, and Kong just spews up all the water that he inhaled. Kong almost damn near passes out, and they cut all their engines and basically have to play dead to make Godzilla think he won so he would leave. But they're stuck there because they know as soon as they turn their engines back on, Godzilla's going to come for them. So they're like, what do? Nathan ends up making a joke. It's just like, how's Kong with heights? And then we jump over again. Now, Madison and Josh have now made cool with Bernie. We had a little scene at a shop. It was short, but it was just to show them kind of come together. They basically go back to the destroyed Apex facility, and he tries to show them where he saw the eye, but the eye's gone. They find a working elevator to the basement level, and they go down, and when they get down there, they start seeing a bunch of weird shit. They actually end up seeing basically everything working, and they're starting to ship stuff out. And they get into one of these storage containers that are being shipped out, and they find skullcrawler eggs. And they're like, why does Apex have skullcrawlers? Well, before they can get out, they get locked in, and their container gets shipped to Hong Kong with a super high-tech shipping, what's the word I'm looking for? Shipping system. It's like, they were just like flying. It was bad weird. Back over to Team Kong. They basically picked up Kong in a giant net and flew him to Antarctica. So the next time we see is they're flying into Antarctica. They drop him into the snow. He gets up. He's like freaking out because, you know, he's never seen snow before. It's mad cold. And the hole into Hollow Earth is there, but he doesn't want to go toward it. Now, they have to try and convince him to go because if he doesn't, he'll die because he can't survive in that kind of climate. You know, nothing really can. So they get Gia to basically lie to him and tell him that his family might be down there. And upon hearing this, he decides to go. They jump into the Heaves. They follow him. These ships were mad cool, you know, flying and hovering with him. And we just see him going hand over these metal bars until he finds the hole that leads into Hollow Earth. And this scene was one of my favorite visually, you know. Seeing them hit the Nexus and all the visual colors, they're screaming because, you know, it's like a free fall and a pull at the same time. But then they end up spitting out into Hollow Earth, and it's just gorgeous scenery everywhere. As soon as they land, King Kong takes a second. He's just like, okay, I know where I am. He recognizes it, and he ends up taking off. And as he's going, you know, his instincts are telling him where to go, and they're following him. They do get attacked. Those ugly flying snake things from the trailer. And he, like, beats them, beats one with the other one. After he kills them, he actually, like, eats part of it. It was, again, them showing off with the CG, just the green blood, and either way, he takes off again, and he ends up finding a point where two mountains meet upside down, and at the top of this mountain, gravity flips. Like in between, gravity is just kind of chilling there, with rocks floating, and he pushes a rock and it falls onto the other side. So he jumps, and gravity flips him, and he ends up on top of a mountain that almost looks like a hand. We jump back over again to Team Godzilla. They make it to Hong Kong, and after a little bit of exploring, they end up in a giant room with claw marks on the walls and an eyeball chilling on the ground, and we don't know what it is. Well, turns out they ended up in a test facility just as the big twist gets turned on, and we get to meet Mechagodzilla. So the whole reason Godzilla attacked was because they made Mechagodzilla. They created a man-made Titan using the remains of Ghidorah. Well, they unleash a skullcrawler on Mechagodzilla, and Mechagodzilla literally just grabs it by its arms and lasers it in half. It was amazing the way it looked. The laser goes straight through its head and then just down. But then the machine immediately powers down because they used up too much energy. The whole reason they want that energy source from Hollow Earth was to power the Mechagodzilla. Because they activated Mechagodzilla, Godzilla himself could sense it and turned from wherever he was swimming and went straight to Hong Kong to find and destroy Mechagodzilla. And again, jumping back real quick, back to Kong. Now that he's on the other side of this flipped continent, he ends up going across a desert and eventually finds what looks like a mountain until he gets close. Turns out it's like some kind of temple or shrine to other Kongs. He opens it and you can see statues of Kongs in the background, but there's nobody left. He even roars and nothing. There's little monsters up on the ceiling that look like bats. But as he's walking through, he finds the axe we see from the trailer. And he picks it up. And it's almost like picking it up is what let him realize that he was home. Because he lets out a roar of approval. Once this happens, everybody that's with him, Team Kong, Mia Simmons and her security team, they all land and they basically watch as Kong walks up to a seat and sits. It looks almost like a giant throne. And he just sits there, axe in hand, looking like a badass. We jump back over to Team Godzilla. Brainy wants to try and get everybody out, but Madison gets curious, trying to explore some shit, and they find how they're controlling Mechagodzilla with Ghidorah's skull. Basically, they have a bunch of wires in Ghidorah's skull with the pilot inside Ghidorah's skull. Basically, the way Ghidorah's three heads used to communicate, because they were so far apart, they communicated psionically, telepathically. So they were using basically a telepathic link from the skull of Ghidorah to control Mechagodzilla. And that was the experiment they were working on. Godzilla makes it to Tokyo. He immediately starts attacking because he doesn't know where Mechagodzilla is. So he just starts destroying everything. We jump back over to Kong because this is where stuff starts to get crazy. Kong gets up. Mia and her team are wondering where's the power source. We still don't know it. He led us here. And then you see an indent in the ground in the shape of the axe. And Kong puts the axe in it, and the ground immediately starts glowing. It actually looks like a giant mural of Godzilla wrapped around the throne. And the axe starts glowing because it starts pulling energy from the core. As it's pulling energy from the core, it's glowing brighter and brighter. And Mia uses a drone to basically take a sample of where this energy is coming from. Nathan, Irene, they try to stop her. But when they try to stop her, her team pulls guns on Gia and the two of them. This pisses off Kong, but she sends the results to her dad, and he immediately tries to synthesize this energy and put it into Mechagodzilla. Now, his pilot, Serizawa, tries to stop him because he's like, we need to test this. We don't know how it's going to affect the unit. This could blow up in our faces. And he's just like, I don't care. Go get in the seat. We're firing at Mechagodzilla now. Now, when they put the axe in, access this energy, Godzilla sensed this. He actually immediately stopped his assault on Mechagodzilla, turned back and forth, and then just roared and then shot his atomic breath straight into the ground. And it's the longest shot we've ever seen him do. And as he's shooting it into the ground starts shaking. The bats above start attacking the people down below. It just, all hell breaks loose. Eventually, though, he burns a hole all the way to the core, all the way to hollowed earth. Him and Kong are literally yelling at each other from opposite sides of this giant hole. Madison's team jumps in there, heave, and tries to leave. They actually shoot Kong to make a hole and try to like jump down the hole that Godzilla just made, but Kong just grabs them up and crushes them, so they're all dead. Kong grabs up his axe, jumps down the hole, uses the axe to kind of like slow his descent as gravity flip-flops, and you know, Team Kong ends up jumping in their ship and flying with him. Kong gets there, and as soon as Kong gets to Tokyo, him and Godzilla just start going crazy on each other. It was funny because Godzilla still has the advantage, even though they're on land now. But all the good shots Kong manages to hit are with the axe. He throws the axe, he punches him, drops elbows on him. It was great. But it's when Godzilla tries to use the atomic breath and he blocks it with the axe, and the axe absorbs it, that he realizes he could do something. But then, as soon as he realizes it, Godzilla smacks him, so he loses the axe. So now he's on the run, trying to dodge Godzilla as Godzilla is just blasting him over and over again. While they were in close range, Kong was giving him the work, but at long range, Godzilla just keeps him at bay with the atomic breath. This is probably going to be a roller coaster ride in the near future, because the way they shot them, Team Kong coming out of the hole, and they basically end up in Kong's face, riding over Kong, like wrapping around Godzilla's atomic breath before going all the way down behind him. It was mad cool. Kong managed to get the axe, and the biggest shot we actually saw him land was the one where he like did an overhead swing with it while it was absorbing Godzilla's blast, and that was the one shot that really did serious damage to Godzilla. We jump back over to Mechagodzilla's team, I guess. And Walt's talking about this is what he's always wanted. He wants humans to be the apex predators now. And as his pilot's trying to power up the machine basically fries him. His brain gets fried, and Mechagodzilla comes to life. While this is all happening, Kong and Godzilla are still going back and forth. Actually, Godzilla's getting back up, and Kong's on top of a building. He lost the axe. The axe got blown away from the shot. He throws something at a building to get Godzilla to turn around, and he jumps on Godzilla, and he starts beating on Godzilla from behind, which I thought was super smart. The thing was, Kong had the advantage in speed and smarts, but Godzilla is just a tank. And Godzilla ends up biting on his arm and gets him in front of him. At one point, he grabs onto Kong's arm with his teeth and drags him so hard that you literally hear the bones crack. I didn't hear it the first time I watched it. I heard it the second time, but he dislocates Kong's shoulder, throws him on the ground. Now Kong's trying to fight with one arm, and Godzilla's on top of him, stomping on him, clawing him. And at one point, he stomps on him. Kong punches his leg, and he just roars at him and stomps on him again. And they both just start roaring at each other face to face. And you can see the point where Kong just kind of gives up, and he's done. Even after Godzilla goes to leave, he tries to get back up again. He tries to keep fighting, but his body just gives out. What I like that they did with these scenes is that these two fought at night, and as Godzilla leaves, the sun's coming up, and so is Mechagodzilla. So when they try to put the new power source into Mechagodzilla, like I said, Mechagodzilla basically goes nuts, becomes sentient, kills Walt, tears out that entire section, and just starts lasering his way out of the facility. Starts destroying all the buildings for no reason whatsoever. And as soon as he sees Godzilla, they just start going at it, except he is just fucking up Godzilla. Every blow he throws has that power in it. It's almost like a mini atomic breath with every shot. His laser is doing ridiculous damage. It's just straight burning through Godzilla. Like, it was crazy. At one point, they have a beam struggle between the atomic breath and the laser wins. Now, back with Team Kong, they land with Kong on his, Kong unconscious, and Gia, being that she's so sensitive to vibration, can feel Kong's heartbeat and can feel his heartbeat slowing. So, like, what can we do to restart his heart? We would need something that can create a charge with it big enough to light up Vegas for a week. So that was the joke. But they decided to use the ship to basically hit him like a defibrillator and restart Kong's heart. Nathan hooks it all up, puts it in, sends Irene and Gia away. As he sets it off, he tries to run. The explosion's so big it knocks him unconscious, but it gets Kong up. Once Kong's up, Gia runs to him. Gia starts talking. She's crying because she sees how hurt he is. But she explains that Godzilla is not the enemy. But the thing beating on Godzilla is for him to be careful, and basically convinces him to go help Godzilla. And this scene was just the perfect way to climax this movie. Like, this thing's about to go kill Godzilla straight Green Power Ranger fucking Dragon Zord style with a spinning tail drill, and Kong grabs it, pulls it off him, starts hitting it. Godzilla gets up as it goes to swing at Kong, grabs it by the arm. Kong grabs it by the other arm as it tries to hit Godzilla. Like, they had it pinned at one point and drove its face into the ground. The reason it got him off is because it like pops out with a rocket launcher and shoots Godzilla. So Kong's fighting it by itself while Godzilla's on the ground. Kong sees his axe, wants to get his axe, manages to get his axe while Godzilla's taking more of a beating, starts using it to start smacking around Mechagodzilla, and is doing some work, but not a whole lot. Like, the cuts are shallow. Mechagodzilla manages to pin him to a wall, and you just see his tail coming spinning, ready to drill into Kong. He's holding it. Back over to Team Godzilla. This entire time, Josh was trying to hack into the system, but he got locked out because he couldn't figure out the password. And he does this one thing he could think of. And Bernie's had this thing of alcohol. It was a single malt whiskey, I believe, that he was going to drink when he, gave up and was ready to die. It was a gift from his late wife. Well, he goes to drink it because he thinks they're all going to die. And Josh takes it and pours it all over the console. And this short circuits Mechagodzilla just enough for Kong to get a little bit of leverage. And once he does, Godzilla, who was on the ground, gets up, looks at the axe, atomic breaths the axe, charging the axe, and now the axe cuts through Mechagodzilla like a knife through butter. And Kong just immediately just starts hacking away pieces. Cuts off his tail, cuts off his arm, cuts off cuts his legs out from under him. It turns up like getting ready to shoot a laser at him, and just cuts off his head. And it was dope. One thing I missed that I thought was cool that I should have mentioned a second ago, they did a little bit of a callback to the first Godzilla movie in this series, where Godzilla like opened up a monster's mouth and breathed his atomic breath into it. Mechagodzilla tried to do that to Godzilla right before Kong joined the fight. I thought it was a cool little callback. He was going to laser into Godzilla's mouth, but this whole scene was just absolutely epic. And now with the fight over, Kong just slumps. He's tired. He seriously looks like an old man. The whole movie is mad funny. But everybody's celebrating. Gia and Irene, they find Nathan. They get him back up to his feet. Madison, Josh, and Bernie meet up with Madison's dad. And it's just, everybody's happy until they hear Godzilla screaming, because they think Godzilla's going to go after Kong again. Kong gets up, gets ready for a fight, and they start roaring at each other a little bit. But they lock eyes, and you just see the look on their face. He puts the axe down, it's done. Godzilla turns around, heads into the ocean. Now, the last thing we see is, I guess, a little bit of time passed by, and Nathan, Irene, and Gia are in Hollow Earth with King Kong. And they all went there, and they basically all lived there with a new research team. There's plenty of stuff to research, and the last thing we see is just Kong swinging around. He lands on a cliff top and just roars, beats his chest. All in all, a good movie. I'm sorry I tried to rush through this. I didn't want this video to be too long, but I really enjoyed this movie. It came out way better than I thought it was going to. Like I said, visually it was great. The soundtrack, great. Like the build up. First off, I thought Kong was gonna win. So when Godzilla won, I was just like, wow, they really gave it to Godzilla. and then to have an even bigger fight after that. Just the pacing of the movie was great. It wasn't a point where I really felt bored. I didn't think it focused on the humans too much. Like I said, there was only a few little plot holes here and there that left me a little confused. But all in all, a great movie. Final thoughts. Would I watch this movie again? Absolutely. I've already watched it twice. Would I like to see them make another part to this with either of these monsters? Absolutely. Would I like to see Kong in his new home? Yes. Would I like to see Godzilla fighting more kaijus? Absolutely. What would I give it on a scale of 1 to 10, though? Oh, and the length of the movie. The length of the movie was great. It was only 2 hours long. It didn't feel like super stretched out. It didn't feel too short. I thought they did a really good job on that. So, yeah. Final verdicts. I'm teetering between 8 and 9. Just because, like I said, parts of it just kind of left me disillusioned. And I also don't want to highball it, being that I sound like a fanboy. So I'm probably going to go with an 8. Just because I am a fan of these monsters and I don't want that to influence my grade. But I thought the movie was, like I said, it was a great movie. I think everybody should watch it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know if you guys want me to review more movies. I definitely want to review Mortal Kombat when it comes out next month. I'm super hyped for that. But that is it for me. You guys know you can follow me on social media. Those links will be down below. But I will catch you on the next video. Later.
I have a dream, that's all I need. I'll make it happen with some work and belief. Know what I want, so I'll take it on. I've made mistakes, but mistakes make you strong. Let's break it down for a minute. I want the crown, I'm gon' get it. You hear me loud, man, I'm winning. Yeah, Charlie Sheen will be grinning.